After another one of the most frustrating losses of the year, on Tuesday, it's clear the Reds need upgrades, but the good news is there's 4 more names getting added to the radar.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. My name is Jeff Carr, and I'm a lifelong Cincinnati Reds fan. I'm glad that you're alongside me here today. This is my 7th season talking about the Reds on a daily basis here on the Locked On Reds podcast, because Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your Cincinnati Reds, every single day. And yes, I use the word Tradar again. Steve's not here with me today. He's actually traveling in, getting ready to come in for the Brave series and going to the Speedway Classic, which if you can see my hat, love this hat. It's a beautiful hat. Anyway, but the Reds are continuing to do the thing that they've done all year, where it's they build momentum and then they do something really frustrating, and now we're all wondering what's next. Well, what's next needs to be some moves. The good news is they're linked to a bunch of different guys. 4 more players are going to be added to this list. I'm going to talk about how they fill in based on a lot of the deficiencies that the Reds have shown here over the last week or so, but certainly what happened in the loss to the Dodgers 5-4 on Tuesday. That's all coming up on today's Locked On Reds podcast that is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app today, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to get $20 off your first purchase. All right, let's start with that, because Nick Lodolo pitched amazing, and yet he was not rewarded with a win. You had an okay day by the lineup, but it still showed it needs a bat. It needs a big bopper in the middle of the order. And oh, by the way, the fielding just absolutely crumbled. Something that we've seen here recently. They've been a lot better about kind of, cutting out the riffraff when it comes to errors and misplayed balls and guys out of position. Well, that all showed back up on Tuesday. And so, and then of course the bullpen also not doing its job either. We saw all the deficiencies on display. The good news is Mark Sheldon wrote an article reporting that he has been talking with people around the team, people around the league, kind of gauging all of his sources. He has 5 names that the Reds are going after. One, Eugenio Suárez. I'm still on the 80 to 90% confidence train that the Reds will get him. I'm not wavering from that. I'm also not admitting that I can't be wrong here. I might be wrong. I've been wrong before. That's fine. And if I am wrong, there's another third base option that Mark Sheldon reported, and he even admitted to his own surprise when he heard this name. Ke'Bryan Hayes, the Pittsburgh Pirates third baseman. Now, for a second, there's going to be a lot of people that are jumping up and saying, but Hayes not a cleanup hitter. No. Eugenio Suárez is an elite cleanup hitter that would provide perfect lineup protection for Elly De La Cruz. Ke'Bryan Hayes is elite with the glove. An easy gold glove candidate year in and year out. Should have had a platinum glove a couple of years ago. He is a wall at the hot corner. If a ball heads to third base, he's got it. Period, plain and simple. It's an out. This would be an amazing get from that elite standpoint. You would not take the lineup and absolutely transform it like you would with Eugenio Suárez, but you would absolutely transform the Reds' defensive alignment. And so I find that kind of intriguing in these rumors, because we saw it on display last night. Now, it was more so in the outfield than it was in the infield, but we've seen it all year long. It kind of feels like if a ball goes to the left side of the infield and you've got, even if it's Espinal at third base, you're not really sure what's going to happen. With Ke'Bryan Hayes there, it's an out, like 90% of the time. So I would find that intriguing. I think that if you can't upgrade your lineup in an elite way, which, by the way, the lineup was hugely at fault in this game too. They scored 4 runs, which is nice, but that's not the realm of run scoring that I'm like, okay, the lineup did its job, the run prevention needs to pick it up. This was kind of a team effort in this failure against the Dodgers on Tuesday, because there were innings where the Reds had plenty of opportunities to score more runs. They let Alexis Diaz off the hook. You remember Alexis Diaz? We were like, oh, hey, they got rid of him. Whatevs, man. Then the Dodgers picked him up, and some of us that are a little bit more sarcastic than others were like, hell, look at him turn into like a bona fide closer again with the Dodgers. Now he's not that. But when you're running out a lineup of, or when you're running out a 3 batters in 1 inning of Santiago Espinal, Spencer Steer, and Connor Joe. Now, Spencer Steer, he's been on a bit of a cold streak, but I still think he's fine. I think he is this team's first baseman. I don't question that. What I do question is why we continue to give many at-bats to Santiago Espinal and Connor Joe. Santiago Espinal is a fine super sub. Let's not pretend he's an everyday player. And Connor Joe, my goodness, man, like, you want to talk about a fun statistic. Over the last 2 weeks, he's hit $167, and his OPS is .550. And that's 9% better than his season, at least according to OPS Plus on Baseball Reference. Yeah, 167 is an improvement. Absolutely preposterous that he continues to get at-bats on this team. I would rather see Rhys Hines get every single Connor Joe at-bat that is out there. But I digress. The Reds have to get better in those spots and not be giving, like, they are bona fide contenders. But if they absolutely want to turn their resume from could be to will be, they've got to stop giving up key at-bats to Connor Joe and to Santiago Espinal. So I wonder a little bit about this. Like, Suárez is still the number 1 target here. But Ke'Bryan Hayes is a very interesting target. He is not that great with the bat. He is, average. He's hit some home runs against the Reds in his career, but he's also been very not present at times for the Pirates. And he's a big reason why all of the promise of the Pirates a couple of years ago kind of disappeared, at least on the lineup side, because they have struggled to score runs mightily for the last 2 years. And he's not been a solution there. But he has always been a solution in the run prevention game, and the Reds are already very good at that from the pitching side. They've got to get their fielding to match their intensity of their pitching. So this would be an interesting pivot. I still think that the Reds go get Suárez because I really think that everything that I am hearing, they are so deeply linked to him. And all of the other rumors that keep coming out is that so-and-so and this and that and all the others, like, they're going to be very aggressive in acquiring Eugenio Suárez. They haven't been talking about the Reds. You know why? Because all those other teams are chasing the Reds in this sweepstakes. That is my belief. That is why I think that I'm 90% sure Eugenio Suárez will be a Red. But look, Ke'Bryan Hayes is a solid pivot with that, and we saw why defensively on Tuesday because, look, they just need to win 1 out of 3 with the Dodgers. I've been saying that since this series began. Just win 1 out of 3 and get to the series with Atlanta and then go crazy on Atlanta. Because Atlanta is floundering and they're not really sure where they're at. They just put Ronald Acuna Jr. on the IL. He's not going to be here for that series, which I'm actually a little bit bummed about. I like to watch him play. But that opens up an opportunity for the Reds to really go off as long as they win today. They've really got to avoid the sweep here today so that we can keep that banner high, right? Reds haven't been swept in 2025. Got to keep that banner really high. But more so just for the fact of, keeping with the wild card race because the Padres are not losing right now. They keep beating the Mets, and now the Padres are 3 games up on the Reds in the wild card race. They're still right in the thick of it, and I'm not counting out the Reds in the division. But if they keep playing games like they did on Tuesday, then we will be. But they can fix that with some additions. Now, I just mentioned Ke'Bryan Hayes. There are 3 other names, and they're all pitchers that Mark Sheldon linked the Reds to. One of them is a former Red and could really make this pitching staff elite. There's one more game left with the Dodgers, and we got the Braves coming to town, and, of course, the Speedway Classic coming up on Saturday. And the best way to get to all of them is with Gametime. Gametime has amazing last-minute deals at the lowest prices guaranteed, and they're going to help you with all of the information that you need. All-in pricing so that you don't get surprised by late fees there at the end when you go to hit checkout. They've got views from your seat, so no matter where you go, you know what your view is going to look like, and you know that you're getting a good deal. But honestly, this comes with a personal recommendation from myself because I love using Gametime. I use it all the time, whether I'm at Great American or I'm traveling around the country trying to hit another ballpark and check it off the map. Gametime is going to help you out with all of that. Download the Gametime app today, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. So you've already got those low prices, and you're getting $20 more off your first purchase with the code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Gametime. They've got the last minute deals at the lowest prices, guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On Reds part of your everyday routine. If you're an everydayer, you are awesome. And if you're not an everydayer, just make sure you hit that subscribe button and become an everydayer. Appreciate everybody that makes Locked On Reds your first listen, your second listen, all the different listens, especially these next couple of days. I mean, I keep saying that we're going to be live whenever the Reds make a move. They haven't made a move yet. I believe it is coming soon. There might be more than one move coming. We might be very busy over the next 30 hours. Right? Yeah, 30. I got the math right. So make sure you subscribe. And when you subscribe, you'll also get Tim Daniel on the Reds postcast. He goes live at the end of every Reds ball game with the audio in your feed shortly thereafter. All right, there's a couple of other interesting names that were linked by Mark Sheldon to the Reds. And I still find this very intriguing whenever you get reporters of the team for the Reds that are linking the Reds to people. Like, normally you hear guys like John Heyman or John Morosi or Mark Feinsand or somebody like that from MLB Network or ESPN or something like that, hearing a rumor that they've heard. In fact, I saw something earlier that said that, John Heyman said that the Reds are linked to Eugenio Suárez and Ramon Laureano. Would love that because he's good defensively and good with the bat as well, and a good outfielder. But that's a national reporter, and some of that is just, all right, they got to get something out there. Local guys don't have to do that. And local guys know when they can and when they can't report something about their team because they're under a little bit more of a microscope from their team. And so I put a lot more weight on like what C. Trent said about the Reds and Eugenio Suárez and what Mark Sheldon is saying with this article where he said Suárez, Key Brian Hayes, and he also linked the Reds to Sonny Gray in St. Louis. Now, I do find the idea of trading with the Cardinals a little bit dubious because who knows, the guys that we could send there could beat us for a while or they could do nothing. That's the beauty of trading prospects. And I think with Sonny Gray, it's a little bit different. Now, Sonny Gray this year has been pretty good. We've not been talking about him here a lot. Honestly, it feels like the Reds haven't played the Cardinals in like a year. But Sonny Gray isn't quite what he was a few years ago, but he's still doing pretty decently. His 4.38 ERA is a little bit misleading. And we talked about this a lot yesterday on the pod when we were talking about Chase Burns because Sonny Gray's FIP, his fielding independent pitching, says he is getting very unlucky right now. His FIP is 3.08. And he has an elite walk rate. His walks per nine is 1.5. And his strikeouts per nine is right below 10. So he is doing amazingly with the strikeouts to walks. In fact, he leads Major League Baseball with the strikeout to walk ratio. And the other part about this is, and the reason that this one would be a little bit more expensive, and it's possible that if the Reds do get Suárez, then they're out of the Sonny Gray running because I think both those trades would be expensive as far as prospect capital is concerned. But this would be amazing because he has another year of team control and he has a club option. Now, this is all up to ownership, and I obviously would say yes, and we all know what ownership tends to say, but Sonny Gray has a $26 million guaranteed contract for 2026. So he's under team control guaranteed for one more year. And then he has a club option for 2027 at $30 million. Chances are the Reds buy that out or they trade him before that happens or whatever. But you're getting a guy that is not a rental if you're getting Sonny Gray. And you're making this rotation. You're not just adding to the depth of this rotation, which is something that I've advocated for a little bit. Like, even if it's not a Sonny Gray, go get a guy that could be a fifth starter. That'd be cool. But you get a Sonny Gray, and you're talking about a dude that's pitched in the postseason. You're talking about a dude that's been there before and been here before, and he loves Cincinnati. Because another key factor of this is, as much as, the as much as the realistic side of our brain might be talking about any one trade rumor where the Reds are involved in, and we're just like, well, if the Reds are involved with this guy, so is like 10 other teams. Sonny Gray has a no-trade clause, so he gets to pick where he can go. Pretty sure if the Cardinals like the Reds' offer, he'd waive that no-trade clause and come to Cincinnati. Don't know about some other teams. He's probably got a list of other teams that would work for, but the Reds got to be on that list. I got to believe. But he has just been so good over such a long period of time that if you have the ability to acquire him now, you're going to make your rotation so much better. Like, consider this. Hunter Greene had a rehab start on Tuesday, pitched fine. I mean, he was hitting good on the velocity. His movement was good. Don't worry about the stats and rehab starts. They do not matter. What matters is velo, movement, and how healthy he is afterward. And so far, there have been no negative reports on that. So he should be back soon. So you're going to have Hunter Greene, you're going to have Andrew Abbott, you're going to have Nick Lodolo, and could you have Sonny Gray? And could you have Brady Singer? And could you have Nick Martinez? And could you move Chase Burns to the bullpen? And could the pitching staff completely transform with one move? You betcha. So maybe go do that. That would be something that would be awesome. And I think that the idea of trading in division, and I didn't quite cover this when I was talking about the Pirates and Key Brian Hayes, I go back and forth on this. I'm not going to lie. I do not have a very strong opinion one way or the other, because some days I'm like, boy, you don't want to trade in division. But other days, all I want are the Reds to acquire talent. All I want is the Reds to acquire talent. Anyway, however it works otherwise, then whatevs. Because name for me, and I'm talking about a prospect. I'm not talking about a major league player that the Reds had for multiple years in the major leagues and then traded away because of some money issue. I'm talking about a prospect who did not debut with them before they traded him. The first one that comes to name is like Paul Konerko. But if that's the first guy, and I'm having a hard time picking out somebody else, like, help me out. You can jump in the comments section if you're thinking of somebody else. But like, the only guy I'm really thinking of is Paul Konerko. I'm okay with that. Trade a prospect to a division rival. If he works out, he works out. And if he works out, he's going to be the first prospect that the Reds trade away to somebody else that works out in like 30 years. All right? That's pretty good as far as worrying about things. If we're going to worry about something that hasn't happened in 30 years, count me out on that. I ain't doing that. So I think, at least for today, I'm in the camp of, if you're going to trade with a division rival, then get your talent back. Sonny Gray, Key Brian Hayes, either one of those guys would add to this team in a very meaningful way. So I'm okay with the prospects they would have to give up for that. Because like we always said, and like my friend Ken Brew over on 700 WLW says, prospects are suspects until proven otherwise. So with that, that's a starting pitcher. There's two more names on this list, and it addresses something that we saw the Reds flounder with on Tuesday. It's something that I think the Reds really need to address. And I've gone back and forth on how very focused they should be on this trade deadline, but there are two relief pitchers from the same team that Mark Sheldon links the Reds with. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, lime, and ginger flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. I mean, I was down in Kiowa a couple of weeks ago playing golf in the afternoon in South Carolina. Yeah, I was like 95 with 105% humidity, needed some energy. 5-Hour Energy absolutely came in clutch. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use the promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, Those are some fun days too. Get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5-hour energy shots today. If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can always listen to us on your favorite podcast app. We're seriously on all of them out there. Go check us out today. And when you're done watching today's episode, go check out Locked On MLB Game Night. They watch every game every night so that you don't have to. That's over on the Locked On MLB feed. All right, so talked about Key Brian Hayes, talked about Sonny Gray, and talked about Eugenio Suárez as well. 2 more guys were on Mark Sheldon's list, and they pertain to the bullpen, and they're both from the Colorado Rockies, which immediately everybody's like, oh, really? They're talking to the Rockies about pitching, that thing that the Rockies just do not do? Well, they're talking to the one guy, or at least they're talking to the Rockies about the one guy in the Rockies bullpen that I would want, and that's Jake Bird. Now, they have also mentioned Seth Halverson, who is the closer for the Colorado Rockies, which is like saying, saluting the guy who cleans up everything after the ball game is over. It's just like, yes, everything is already a mess, and dude has a lot of work to do. Seth Halverson, he's got so much that he has to deal with. Ultimately, though, Seth Halverson, not very good with the strikeouts, not very good with the walks, not very interested in him. I am interested in Jake Bird, though. Jake Bird has an above-average strikeout rate for major league relievers, and he's right around league average with the walk rate, too. He has been the fireman in the bullpen for the Rockies, comes in the situations where the Rockies need him the most. And the good news is that they don't pitch him every day, because I feel like the Rockies need that every day. But he has plenty of experience pitching in tight ball games. And he has the thing that Sonny Gray has, where you'll look at his ERA and you'll think you know who he is, but I'll tell you his FIP and I'll say that he's getting unlucky, because he is. According to his fielding independent pitching, the things that he can control, strikeouts, walks, home runs, things like that, he is getting unlucky. His FIP is like a run lower than his ERA is, which means that he's a pretty good relief pitcher, and he would be great talent to infuse this Reds bullpen with. I find it intriguing. We didn't get a chance to discuss this on yesterday's podcast, but C. Trent Rosecrans came out and said that the Reds had been linked to Emmanuel Clase with the Guardians. Of course, we know that's not going to happen now, because he got he's currently being investigated for a gambling probe, and he's been suspended for like a month. So he is not available anymore, and the Reds won't be going after him, nor will anybody else. But it shows that the Reds are really hard on improving their bullpen, and they're really going hard on that. So I think that is something that we will see them do. No matter if they get Suárez, if they get Hayes, if they get Sonny Gray, if they get another starting pitcher, I think they will also add another relief pitcher. It might not be a Jhoan Duran, like I mentioned last week when we were talking about some relief pitching rumors. It might not be that elite guy that moves Emilio Pagan out of the closer role, but it could be somebody that supports Tony Santillan, takes some of the appearances away from Scott Barlow, because my gosh, that guy cannot pitch every game, although they're trying. And then hopefully takes away some appearances from guys like Lyon Richardson and Sam Maul, and guys that have just really not pitched well this year. Like Lyon Richardson has been fine, and Sam Maul's been but you can do better. And Jake Bird would be better. And this is intriguing to me, because Tuesday was another day. It doesn't feel like there are as many of these days as like what we saw on Tuesday. But Tuesday was another day where you had great starting pitching and a passable performance by the lineup. Not great, but not bad either. But the bullpen can't hold the lead. And that's exactly what happened. And so if you can add to that, if you can make it stronger, and you could make it stronger by trading for Sonny Gray and moving Burns or Martinez to the bullpen, then I would love that too. If you could do both, add Jake Bird and Sonny Gray, this could be a very interesting thing. And I know that we as Reds fans are sitting here and begging the front office to do one of two, if not both, things, and that is add an outfielder or add an elite power bat in the middle of the lineup. But if the Reds can be elite at run prevention, they have a very, very good pitching staff, and they have very good defense, that is what wins playoff games. The teams with the best pitching staffs. And the reason that I continue to say if the Reds just get in, they just need to be the last wild card team. And no one will want to face them because of the fact that they have Greene, Abbott, and Lodolo. Because in the playoffs, you really don't have a 5-man rotation. You have 3, maybe 4. Because you got guys that pitch on shorter rest. You don't go every 5 days. You go 3 to 4 days. So you have your elite pitchers going every day. And the Reds have that kind of a starting rotation. But if you can make that even better, if you could add a 4th in Sonny Gray, if you could add Nick Martinez and Chase Burns to the bullpen, and if you could add another arm to the bullpen, you're bumping out some middle of the road, flip a coin relievers for guys that are much better than that. And this could be really, really tough for other teams to score against this Reds ball club. I said at the beginning of the year that if the Reds can average 4.5 runs a game, that this pitching staff will help them get to the playoffs because this pitching staff will not give up that much. So far, I'm right about the runs scored and the runs prevented and things like that. They've just done this thing where one game they score 9 and they give up 8, and then one game they score 2 and they give up 1. And so they all even out, but they're not working in the way that I think that they will by the end of this season. That's why I agree. Any manager would tell you in the middle of July, no, our team has not played its best baseball, because that's his job. Because if your team has played their best baseball in July, guess what you're not going to be doing in October? And that is what Tito is saying, but I agree with him because I have not seen the performances match up. I have not seen everything go the Reds' way in one game like I think it can. Or one series. Really, we're talking about series here, not just games. So I think that we're getting to that point. And you can add to that and make one thing elite and really see the other thing flourish just well enough. Like, honestly, if the deadline is super heavy on pitching and defense, I'm okay with that. And there'll be a lot more ways that I can explain that to you here, but I've been thinking about that here recently. If the Reds are not able to land a Eugenio Suárez like I expect them to at this point, there are other ways to make this team not only a playoff contender, but a playoff problem for other teams. And adding to the bullpen and adding to the defense is such a good idea. And Nick Krall knows this. I don't think Nick Krall, there's a lot of people out there that are trying to disparage the job that he has done. He's not done a horrible job. I don't think he's done a good job either. He's done a very mid job. Now he can change that narrative really quickly over the next 30 hours. I'm hoping he does, because there's a lot of rumblings and grumblings and rumors and lots of things linking the Reds to being very active in this deadline. And I'm all in on it. I think it's going to happen. I will be shocked, I will be stunned, and I will be very disappointed if nothing does. And that'll do it for this podcast here, today's episode. Boy, talking about frustrated and annoyed. It's been a fun podcast, and that's how I end this podcast. Anyway, go Reds. Speedway Series this weekend. Can't wait for it. All right, now we end on a good note. Thanks for checking out today's Locked On Reds podcast. Appreciate everybody who is an everydayer. If you're not an everydayer and you got to this point, you got to hit that subscribe button now. You got to. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube and on your favorite podcast app, because we're on all of those. Make us your first listen, your second listen, all the listens, because we'll be with you these next 30 hours with as many trades as the Reds have. We're going to be all over it right here on the Locked On Reds podcast. And then past that, covering the stretch run and everything that the Reds are about to do right here on the Locked On Reds podcast. And now that we're done for today's episode, go check out Locked On MLB. They got Sully covering the league every single day, and they got Locked On MLB Game Night that watches every game every day so that you don't have to. But until tomorrow, when Steve's going to be back with me tomorrow, you can trust that we will be Locked On Reds every single day.